Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Rise Urban Nation. I got two special guests in the building with me today. We got D Sky, so high that we can kiss the sky, up to the sky. And then Ed-Maggie, they are joining us today. They're about to tell about their business, their career journey, their entrepreneurship journey. So, ladies, welcome to the building. How are you today, and where are you joining us from?
Yes. I got the neighbor BK as well. Good morning, and thank you as well, Tyrell, for having us this morning. Happy to be here today.
We so happy to have you. So now, for the people who have not had the pleasure of meeting you, I know this is a deep question, and you can take it as far, as wide as you want to go. But who is D Sky and Ed-Maggie? So, Ed-Maggie, I'm gonna start with you. Who is Ed-Maggie? And you could give us the abbreviated version, whatever you want to do in your soliloquy.
Well, when you ask that question, I'm like, wow, that's a question. It's a lot of moving parts. Haitian born, my parents are immigrants from Haiti. They came to this country very young, got married, have 8 children. So I'm number 5 out of 8 kids. And I guess what happened was my parents made sure that education was the most important thing. They sent all 8 of us to Catholic school. Somehow. I don't know how. One man's salary did it. And so I always grew up with the notion that whatever I focus on is what I can get. I use my mother mostly as my mentor when it came to it. So I went to Fordham University. I studied economics and I did business as my minor. And when I graduated, passion obviously was my first love, and that is what I wanted to do initially. So I did that for about 4 years. I did merchandising. I did a little bit of Lord and Taylor work, shoe sales. I was the manager over there for the Michael Kors department. And, wanted to grow, though. I wanted to do more for myself and also wanted to do more for my family, to give back to them. Because, for me, my family is very talented. I have a lot of artists in my family. Brothers in the film industry, same as my sister. So I wanted to put them into a position where they can get to that financially stable status, when you got a lot of artists. So my oldest sister is an attorney. She grew up, did her own thing, and I figured, you know what, I'm going to defect to finance, because one thing I know is when I study business and economics, you can make a lot of money in the financial industry. And so I started NILICO about 7-8 years ago, and was able to slowly accomplish every single one of my milestones as far as getting the financial stability for my family. So now I'm more so about giving back, about educating people on what they can do, and fulfilling your dreams. I mean, my first goal is I just wanted to make $70,000 a year, and so I was able to way surpass that now. As far as income status, and also as far as what it is to assist other people and help them fulfill my dream of educating people on finance. So now I'm able to help individuals get their finances together, and at the same time I'm able to supply for my family. And I still do some of the fashion stuff on the side. I mean, apparently one of my friends is going to be on a talk show soon. I'll be styling her. So I'm able to fulfill yeah, all of my future, and there's really no limit to what you can do. So just knowing the Holy Spirit is your guide and God is first, and you could accomplish anything, as long as you don't forget who you are.
I love all of that. I love all of that, and big up to you for man. That's a lot of kids, and they. I don't know how one man was able to get all these kids, but through
God.
through hardships, through the ghetto, through the systems, and y'all all turned out good and successful. You remind me of my dad, who's a immigrant parent from Nigeria. 4 kids did the same thing in the hoods of DC, and we all came out successful. So that's a beautiful testimony. Thank you for sharing your story. D Sky, you up next?
I'm up next. Well, mine is not as direct and succinct, but it's the journey. It's about the journey. For myself, I'm the oldest of 5. Mom and dad home. I didn't have a really clear direction in terms of what I wanted to do when I entered college. So I spent time kind of going in college and jumping out of college, and jumping in college and then jumping out and doing other things, trying to figure out what it is I wanted to do. I had a passion for communication and music. And so I ended up in the fashion world for a while, did modeling. And, I find that I like to always find meaning and purpose in whatever it is I'm doing. So when I realized I felt like a hanger for clothing, as opposed to really having some meaningful contribution, I decided to do my own thing. And so I did talent and fashion shows for quite some time, wanting to just make sure that, knowing that I didn't really want to have a career necessarily in fashion, it was wonderful. It afforded me a lifestyle that I enjoyed, but it wasn't the industry I wanted to stay in. So I wanted to make sure that I can open a way for those who did want to do that. So I did talent and fashion shows for a while, jumped back into school, jumped out of school. And then I decided, you know what? Let me do something a little different. Let me see if I can provide a way for my interest in music to be flourishing. So I ended up with a dance company. I was the managing director for a traditional African dance company. We did traditional dances from Cote d'Ivoire, and we did that for quite some time. Lincoln Center Out of Doors, Carnegie Hall, Brooklyn Academy of Music, PBS specials. We did a lot, and I got fulfillment out of that because I'm representing my culture and my heritage as an African living in America. Did that until I said, you know what? It's time for me to switch lanes because I have like different interests in life. And I never felt like I wanted to be keyholed into any one. Like I just want to be a doctor and spend the rest of my life being a doctor. There's just so many things that I found of interest. So one of my interests was in health and wellness. So I became a co-owner of a holistic medical practice, which I dived into with both feet. Did that for a number of years. And after I felt like I've done as much as I can do from an owner's perspective, I jumped out of that and began actually teaching. Went back to school, got my degree in alternative medicine, and began teaching health and wellness because I felt like it's an area that is such a foundation for how we live, for whatever we do is based on your state of health. Your state of health is going to determine your state of mind, your state of your spirit. It affects so much of who we are in this world. So I did that for a number of years as well. And then business is always behind everything that I'm doing. So I got exposed to network marketing and I like the concept out of everything. I love the concept of residual income, you know, after it makes so much sense. Buffett said that if you don't find a way of generating income while you're sleeping, you're going to work until you drop, right? So it's a really, really important concept that I grasped onto. And so I did the direct sales for quite some time until I came across this industry. When I say this industry, the industry that brought both Ed-Maggie and myself together. And this is finances, in the financial industry. And specifically, now there are different niches, of course, in the financial industry. You've got real estate, you've got land ownership, you've got artwork, you've got stocks and bonds. Our niche is life insurance. And so she and I work together in the arena of life insurance, which has the whole residual income, as well as being able to positively impact people's lives.
I love that. I love that. Now, I feel like both of y'all have so many parallels. Did y'all know each other before y'all got into this industry, to the financial industry? Like,
No,
No.
but you know how the spirit works.
yeah,
Yes.
like, ladies and gentlemen, y'all witnessing like Black Girl Magic, always in the making. Not only do they are the creators of life, they breathe life into everything they do. So I'm surprised they didn't join at the hip sometime between their fashion and music thing. But I'm glad they got the financial literacy going. So what made the financial industry? You stopped and said, you know what, this is it. Like, and what have you learned in this journey of coming into the financial industry and just really helping our people get a better education and learning those gems that you dropped from Mr. Warren Buffett? What has that process been like for you both?
You know what I'd say? In each of the arenas that I have worked in, whether it was fashion, whether it was music, whether it was communications, whether it was medicine, behind the passion to do what you're doing, you have to stand on a financial platform. Who wants to be the starving musician? Who wants to be the burnt out, broke doctor? Well, they're not going to be broke. They'll just be burnt out. But I mean, behind it all, you have to have a financial platform that you're building your craft or whatever your contribution to this wonderful thing we call life to be able to sustain ourselves and in a way that is respectable to who we are. And everybody has different standards of how they feel comfortable living. So for me, it was something I always leaned into, regardless of what arena I was in. Like, what's going on behind the scenes here in terms of the money making? So it's just a foundation.
Yeah, I mean, to answer that question, is the Bible talks about seeking, you will find, right? And I think everybody, what we're in now, one of the bad things about the pandemic is obviously all the loss that we have had to deal with. But the silver lining behind it is it kind of forces people to reflect on priorities and what is important versus not important. So, life insurance obviously is something a lot of people are thinking about now because the pandemic opened up them to understanding of mortality, but I think it also opened up people to how much knowledge is actually out there versus where they are in their life. And if you're seeking towards something, you look and you'll find it. Everyone's working to survive. Not everyone, but a lot of people work to survive, and there's better opportunities in life to survive. There's also opportunities for you to thrive and for you to be able to, like Skai said, use that financial backing to support your life. One of my best friends, for example, she's a physical therapist. And one of my dreams is I would like to help her with her down payment to open up her own individual physical therapy office so she can go out and do her own thing. And that's something that you can do with the financial backing. And I don't know if it's an intentional thing with our systems, but when I studied economics, they don't teach people about credit scores or life insurance or balancing checkbooks or investments or streams of income. The Bible says you should have 8 streams of income, right? Ecclesiastes talks about it. But that's not something that we're taught in school. What are we taught in school? You go to school, get a degree, graduate, work a job for 40 years, maybe make a pension, maybe there'll be social security for you. That won't be decided by you though, right?
Don't forget the gold watch.
So, right, upon retirement. And it's actually, so many people, I'm a millennial, so many of us graduated and experienced, I don't know if you want to call it the scam of the truth, which is that doesn't look too good. I watched my father work for 31 years. And his pension is lower than I've earned in residual income on a monthly basis. It's 1/4 of it after 8 years, less than 8 years in the company, right? So understanding the importance of about having that financial background, understanding how life insurance actually has been in this country for years, centuries, actually.
Hundreds of years.
Yes, centuries. And basically, people have used it to propel themselves in so many ways. Even going back to me as a Haitian born American, you know, when you understand the history of it, like back in the day, slave owners used to have life insurance on their slaves, and they would get income from the slave passing away, right? And so in my opinion, everyone should have life insurance because it's the easiest way for you to escalate generational wealth because it's tax-free monies. And it's not just about educating our demographic of union workers and working families, but it's also offering people the opportunity to know that they can actually work in an environment where they could have a life, they could have equality, they could have a balance, they could have what I think most people struggle with, which is just time to think. If you're so focused on where the next check is going to come from and how you're going to survive and all those different things, you're not able to really be your true self. And I'm a firm believer, there's a book called The Science of Getting Rich, and it spoke about God, I don't think, wants us to be in lack. I think the best form of love is shown in abundance. So you're full, you're complete, you can give, and you know that you're always going to have more from the space of giving. And so, I think if we can just educate people, and that's why I love what I do, one day at a time, one home at a time, it's one worker at a time, changing that mindset and propelling people forward. So
Yeah.
that would be my answer to your question, Tyrell.
Yeah, I love that you.
Absolutely.
I always love that you bring religion into it because there's a spiritual essence in our people. We're very like spiritual people, And I think it helps them get it from that context and lens. So thank you for inviting that to the conversation. I'm also thinking about the cult.
Absolutely. I have a very difficult time disassociating the two. A
The
lot of what makes my success is my grounding in spirituality.
No, I don't want you to disconnect the two. Keep bringing it and being your authentic self. We all connect in different ways with money. The thing that I struggle with and I think about when I think about our communities, and especially our most impoverished communities, is our relationship. And I think I was telling somebody the other day this, like, yo, I'm tired of doing the fish fries every time we got a RIP or a GoFundMe. Like we need to learn how to really elevate our communities by setting in the proper protections for our family, and it could be a generation vehicle to generate wealth as well. Not only just when somebody passes away, so that the family is taken care of, so they can celebrate that person's life properly, right? And then also set the next generation up. How do we start to change the culture and shift the culture? Like, and what is it? Do you think that it really needs shifting when we look at our culture in reference to money and really tapping into generational wealth through the form of life insurance?
I'm glad you mentioned that, and I'm really glad that that Maggie, you mentioned the whole issue of generational wealth. It's becoming more and more part of our conversation as a people, and there's some patience that has to be had for us as a people here, because our beginnings here in this country is not the same as other people's beginnings. So we came into kind of survival mode, and then gradually working our way out of just survival, our ability to be able to just live decently, and then trying to figure out the best way for us to succeed using our innate genius that we have as a people, figuring out how to educate ourselves, how to clothe, how to house ourselves. So we're a little bit behind, say, other groups who've been here even during a shorter period of time, but we've caught up. We've caught up to the place where we realize that we have to now put in place things that are necessary for us to succeed generation after generation, where we can set up the next couple of generations in place, put that in place. And so a great deal of what we do in this business is education, because financial literacy is something that we are grasping at this point, understanding that it's not enough just to be able to live paycheck to paycheck. Like, we have to plan ahead several generations in order to really live with dignity and respect. So that's part of our conversation. In our conversations around finances and our conversations around wealth, we have to talk about just what it is to put these things in place. So when we talk about things like life insurance, someone like a Walt Disney, who, as we know, started Disney World, it wouldn't have come into being had it not been for life insurance policies. Nobody wanted to hear his cockamamie idea about a theme park. Didn't exist, right? But that's how lots of ideas are launched. It was never done before. Having somebody believe in your dream, his family didn't want to hear about it. He had to do it himself. He had to cash out a couple of life insurance policies. One of the benefits of life insurance policies, whole life insurance policies, is the cash value that's inside of them. This is known by many generations at this point, and is passed down through generations, where they have a substantial amount of cash value that they use to take loans out against to start ideas, business ideas. We can do that, right? A lot of times we have to get past thinking of life insurance as, oh, you want to talk about me being dead. Like, I don't want to talk about that. That is not the only use of life insurance. Far be it. It's used oftentimes as a springboard for the next generation. And as Ed-Maggie had alluded to, tax-free. She made a statement, actually, tax-free. I know when I'm talking to someone who is old money and someone who's new money, because old money got burned by several other types of quote unquote investment vessels for them, for their futures. Because when they went to go get them in their retirement years, they got walloped with taxes, 30, 40% in taxes before they were able to receive what they've been saving as tax deferred vehicles. With life insurance, that money goes into the policy tax free. Uncle Sam can't touch it like he touches up your bank account every year. Uncle Sam touches up your bank account every year, right? It's called income tax, right? Helps himself to a whole third, more or less, of your income. With life insurance, it doesn't get touched at all year after year. And when it pays out, guess what? It gets paid out tax free. What could be better than that? So we have substantial income earners. We're talking millionaires who have monies
No
put
capital gains
inside.
taxes, nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have to get savvy about that. It's not enough to just say, I've got a bank account. I mean, what's your bank account earning these days? 0.2% interest? Like pennies banks are tossing at us for the privilege of holding on to our money. Like something is not resonating. Something's not making sense there. So when we're talking about life insurance, we're talking about finances, we're talking about another vehicle through which we are building our wealth for the next generations. We could talk about family trusts. We could talk about creating family banks with life insurance policies. It has tremendous uses beyond taking care of your final expenses, which is a reality. We all know we're going to leave this life. We weren't responsible for coming in. We're here, right? And living this life. But at some point, you have to own your life, right? And even the end of your life, right? Who wants to leave loved ones with a $30,000 tab?
These guys in
right?
her
That's
bag
just
this
not
morning,
fair,
ladies
right?
and gentlemen. Like she is talking that talk. Like, this.
You know, we're passionate about what we do.
I want to talk about something she mentioned, that old money versus new money. And, you know, it's funny because I feel like in my life, I'm kind of juxtaposed between the two, and the wide range of individuals that I know in my life. I think all my friends are like the UN, you know, as far as their levels, their families and everything. And it's just, behavior is belief driven, right? And if you go into a family, there's two types of beliefs, right? And I've had conversations with people. It's this: whether I get my life together or not, doesn't matter. I'm inheriting money. That's one behavior, belief driven aspect from a specific demographic of people that I know, right? And in the other demographic, it's, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. If this person dies, we're going to have to come together and get it together. Those are two different beliefs. One believes they're inheriting money as their families die off, right? And the other belief is you're going to struggle when your families die off, right? And so I think that, to answer your question, what's the easiest way to attack it? Well, knowledge is power, right? The truth shall set you free. And if we're taught by our parents, right, just like how people who have their assets together, the old money people, they teach their children this, and it's so innately ingrained, it's not even something that they think about as a lesson. It's just their constant state of life. It's what they know, right? Which is, you know, different things about using credit cards versus using their debit cards, you know, having those little small financial knowledges so that way when they're 18, they have an 800 credit score, right? That's not normalized as much. And that's something that could very, very easily be taught from us. So it's up to us as, you know, the millennials of the world, the people that are raising our children, you know, people that are, you know, informing our children, this is what you're supposed to do with your life. This is how you're supposed to live your life financially. You know, we get taught this is what we're supposed to do just to survive. We need to get taught this is what we need to do to thrive. And it's okay to do well for yourself. You're not a bad person if you're doing well for yourself. It's all right. You can thrive, and you could also be in such a great place that you could also give back. So I think that, to answer your question, it's just about the education and normalizing the education, normalizing the conversation about finances. Because old money, when you walk around at a party, sometimes that's what they talk about. What investment are you in? What are you doing? What is this? That's a normal conversation, you know. And in another conversation, it's what's she wearing? What bag does she have? What shoe is she wearing? And once that becomes a normalized conversation in how we raise our children, it's intentionally, in my opinion, not taught in our school system, because we need most people to understand, got to work to survive. So I think that's what's needed. Sorry, I just had to say.
Go ahead. Jump in there.
You know what? You know, if I can leave a tidbit, Just as a little tidbit, when a young person has a whole life policy, right? A parent will purchase a whole life policy for their children. This is what people with money do. They come in the world, they get their whole life policy. It's not a question of whether you're going to die or not. You are going to die at some point. So you have this, it's in place, it's inexpensive when they're very young. But the advantage now later on in life, as Ed-Maggie was mentioning, your credit worthiness. Say your child reaches 23, 24, they want that car. They want that car. They graduated college. They're proud of themselves. Mommy, daddy, you said you're going to get me a car, right? Now, you're going to be the one to go purchase that car. We'll help finance you, but you're going to go get that car. They can go to a dealership, and of course, they're going to have their credit run. When they find out that this young person, this 23, 24-year-old, has a whole life policy in place, out of 10 points in their credit worthiness, they automatically get 4 points. Automatically. They're almost halfway there just by having a whole life policy. Why? Because that says to the person that's extending the credit, you're responsible. You are thinking about your future versus, say, a family, husband, wife, kids come in, they want to buy a car, they need a car, but they don't have life insurance. What are you doing? What are you doing? You don't have life insurance. It says that you're fiscally irresponsible. So it automatically gives your child some credit worthiness. Go ahead, Maggie.
Same thing for home ownership. When they're looking at, your assets and your liabilities, life insurance is considered an asset. They'll ask you, I spoke to a loan officer about it. I said, why do you guys give them better interest rates? Why do you give young people with life insurance better opportunities to own a home? He's like, listen, someone's under 30 years old and they have a life insurance policy, they're thinking about their future. Their behavior patterns are the kind of person that I would want to trust with this bank loan.
Yeah, so all that is just straight fire. I want to dial it back to something that you said earlier, Ed-Maggie, in reference to, the education and changing the narrative and having conversations about being the new norm. I'm thinking about, my down south, South Carolina.
I'm sorry, you broke that up a little bit.
So I'm thinking about my down south Carolina people. When we talk about when you were speaking about normalizing it and changing the culture and having the conversation, educating people, some of the people that's in the church from the South that I have family members, they look at sometimes some of the churches demonize money, like the money is the devil, like you that's the devil right there, right? How do we change that narrative so that we can start to have healthy, normalized conversation?
Well, I love how you say that, because the church is going to be the first one, though, to tell you to tithe. Right after they say money is the devil, they're going to pass that basket around, right? The love of money, that you can demonize, right? Seek God first, and all these things shall be given unto you. So if your heart is in a place that money is a spiritual thing, and it is just used for you to do whatever your spiritual cause of life is supposed to be. Let's say, for example, Skai was talking about, I want to open up a medical practice, and I'm a very good doctor, I'm a very good physical therapist. What do you need to start off that business? Financial backing, right? If you're a musician, right, and you want to open up your own recording studio, and you don't want to have to pay fees to record, right? You could do that if you have those financial backings. Like I'll give you an example, like Taylor Swift. She has an amazing career, not to knock her, but her family's wealthy. You don't think that helped with her ability to be able to record and work with artists? And we have so many talented individuals that may not have that financial backing just because they didn't have that knowledge, just because, it's each generation, each one teach one, talking about generational, blessings. As you learn something, it breaks that curse. And that lesson doesn't need to be learned in the next generation now. Now they know. And so that's why I feel so propelled behind, where I am. When I started even in the finance industry, I was one of the first few, Black leaders on my team to be able to be a female that's powerful, right? So I feel like that's my ancestors behind me saying, you know what, you opened the door. I was waiting for this. I was waiting for you. I am vouching for you. So I feel like that pressure, that energy to feel, all right, well, I got to make sure that I'm on point. And whatever I'm doing, I'm going to try my
You
best
are
to do it
exactly
well.
who our
So,
ancestors prayed for. And
that's my
so I'm
answer.
glad you are here, both of you. You guys, this is what I love about New Yorkers. Like, yeah, y'all, New York is so inspirational. I feel like you are like the female version of Earn Your Leisure. Y'all out here in these streets just doing it and educating people one at a time. I'm in San Diego. I'm in San Diego,
Where are you
California.
based? Where are
Born
you
in New York,
based?
raised in DC, but now out here in San
Okay.
Diego, California. But I've been watching Earn Your Leisure, and I've been watching what New York been doing, and y'all on y'all A game out there. So I applaud y'all. I hope that other states and other communities follow what y'all doing, because this is a true movement and it's beautiful. As we start to see, because now I start to see this tide shift, more people are normalizing the conversation, and so there's a lot of people getting into this business. But we do have some frauds out there that's getting into business in it for all the wrong reasons. The money grab, the quick bags, not setting people right up for success. But we have also have people who are taking the time to do it, like yourselves. I would what's you know what, first of all, what's the name of your business, and what is unique about your business? What would you say is unique about your business?
You
You want
want
me
to
to
take
answer,
that,
Sky, or
Ed-Mag?
you want to answer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Good.
National Income Life Insurance Company is what we're known in New York. Where you are in San Diego and all 50 states, and including Canada, we're known as American Income Life Insurance. So our company was founded in 1951 by a man named Bernard Rappaport. We're a 100% unionized life insurance company. And he founded us because, a lot of working families, they did the whole get the job, work in the union, but usually when you retire, you quit, you leave your union job, those benefits don't go with you, right? All these city workers, my sister's an attorney for the DOJ, and she did her own research, of course, because that's how lawyers do. And she said, my benefits aren't coming with me when I'm retired. So basically, what he did is he allowed a facet for the union to support and vouch for a life insurance company to educate their union workers and be able to enroll in insurance products when you're younger and you're healthier. And when you leave the union, you take those products with you 100%. Okay. And so that's pretty much what our company does, as far as it being a union based life insurance. Now, what's different from our companies, versus other companies? Well, we sell term life, we sell whole life, right? Whole life is, term life is cheaper. It's for a short time. When you're get a certain age, it cuts off, and if you're still alive after that time period, just like car insurance, that policy's closed, that money is gone. It does serve certain great purposes like income protection, mortgage protection, anything that has a lifetime for coverage. But when it comes to like the generational wealth building and the cash value, that's not built with term products, but that's why they're also cheaper generally in the marketplace, right? Whole life is more expensive, but it's for your entire life. The price never changes. And then after 3 years, that's when it starts to build cash and loan value. So just imagine if you started at zero, how much cash value you'd have even at 18 years old, right? And it's compounded interest with our company is at four
Did you
and a
say
half
compound
percent
interest?
after its third year.
Woo! And if, ladies and gentlemen,
Compound
if you don't know what
interest.
compound interest, look
Yes.
it up, because now if you don't know,
Yes.
now you know.
Yeah, so yeah, no. Once that time comes, obviously after 3 years, it builds that loan value, and then, as I said, the price never changes. So if you start your policy at zero, you're going to pay the rate of a 0-year-old when you're 60 years old. By then, you policy actually would be considered paid up. That's another conversation, and you wouldn't need to pay anything anymore. But the rate would never change. Start at 25. When you're 55, it's the same rate. So our company, we actually specialize in discounted rates for whole life insurance for union members and their families, because most of them know they need it, they know it's important, but a lot of them are scared of whole life insurance because of the price, what it goes for on the market, and so they end up with term. And they tell themselves, I'm going to switch it over later when I get that part of my life where I could afford it. But then sometimes, what are we doing with our lives? We're busy, we're working, we're just trying to survive. We forget. and they get that letter in the mail at 70 years old. And then the story becomes life insurance isn't good, like you said, right, Terrell? Life insurance isn't the best thing for you. I had a term plan and my term policy cut off. And so that's what our company does is our niche. We specialize in discounted rates for the union members to be able to afford something that they know they need and may not be able to find it on the market for a price that they could actually budget in.
And one of the reasons that we're able to offer it at such a discounted rate is because we don't need to advertise. We don't advertise, we don't solicit. We're typically not even available on the open market. And that's because we made our relationships with those unions. We're a unionized life insurance company. And because we have those relationships with the union heads, we are available to the union body as a whole. So all that money that other companies that we've heard of that have their names on the side of stadiums or in little lizards and other kinds of advertising, marketing, advertising mechanisms, we don't need to invest billions of dollars in advertising. We keep that and we save our members the hassle of having to spend so much in premiums, because those other companies will pass on all that money they're spending in advertising onto their clients, right? They're not going to take the hit for that advertising. It gets passed on to the clients. So our rates are so highly competitive.
Love that. I'm curious.
And become very affordable.
Do you remember your first sale? And if you do, how did you make your first sale?
It's so nice because I know with our company, we have such a camaraderie, which is one of the things I love about this particular company. We have such a support system. We work as teams. It's not the typical corporate environment where we're competing with each other. The competition is not what goes on. We work cooperatively with each other. So when I made my first sale, I was with someone who was training me. So it's not like you're out there on your own. It's not like you get your license and now you're out there trying to figure it out. We work with other people. We get training. We get support. And so when I was in the home because this is when we were out in the field, before COVID hit, in the homes, making that sale, I was like, I did that. No. We did that. And it's twofold. It's exciting because one, you're really helping a family protect their future. And two, it's just confirming your ability to be able to convey all these things we were talking about to a family, so I'm like, yes, I can do this. And then the doors fly open. How about you, Mag? You've been at this longer than I have. What was your first sale like?
My first sale was I'll talk about my second sale. My first sale was a friend of mine who said, Maggie, when you get licensed, I need you to sign me up for life insurance because I like you and I trust you. And I said, okay. My second sale, I like talking about it because it was after, and this is why I love correlating my life to a spiritual process. I had just gone through my worst sales week ever. I sat down with 14 individuals that week. Nobody wanted to buy from me. And it was honestly because the company has a system to work and I wasn't on it. I was doing my own thing, using my talents. And, I got my first real rejection. So I'm a firm believer that right after a door closes in your face, it's a test to see, do you really want this? Right? And so I had a door refusal, my first one. So I didn't get any sales for 14, but the woman opened the door for me. It was 8:00 in the morning. And she said, I'm not dealing with you. And she shut the door in my face. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go to my next person. I walked over to my next client. And she was a woman who, again, told me no. And I just said no to your no. And she's a woman who's still on the books to this day. This is 7 years ago. She has a daughter. And she really understood the value and the importance of life insurance based off of our conversation. And that's really was so impactful for me because, when I went back to speak to her years ago, everything she knows about life insurance was stuff that I taught her 7 years ago. And when I had the conversation with her, I'm like, you're selling me a life
beautiful
insurance.
when you go back to somebody and they regurgitate everything you told them. Like I've had aha moments like that too before. So that I love that. Thank you for sharing both those stories. Now I want to go back into your journey because like a lot of people always think that as soon as they make the decision to jump into something that they're automatically going to hit that level of success, or need to hit a certain level of success to be sustainable in that career or that journey that they go into. And I like to show people, it's not always like that. Like life takes you through these different journeys, as you alluded to when you were telling your stories in the beginning. All that to say, what was your very, very first job? It's just so they could see the correlation of your first job to where you're at now. What was your first job? Yeah.
My
Yeah,
first job, my first job, this is when I was 16. I was a camp counselor, a summer camp counselor. That was my first job. And then after that, as I got a little bit older, it was administrative, during those years that I was in and out of college, because I really wasn't qualified to do but so much at that point. Um, so yeah, after that, it was just administrative work. But what it did do for me was it taught me what I didn't want. Um,
hmm
because I was living in Queens. I grew up in Queens. I had to take a bus to the train and then the train into the city. Because, you have to work in Manhattan to work at that time. And and this is kind of even before women got savvy enough to just say, listen, I'm going to wear my sneakers and until I get to the job, and then I'm going to change my shoes to my fly kicks. Right. So I was wearing my fly kicks from the time I left the house till the time I got back in the house. I'm like, who does this? I don't want to walk around like this. I don't like this. I respected the fact that my mother did it, but I'm like, Ma, I can't do this. And so when I talked to her about wanting to do my own thing, she heard me, but she was like, you know, respectfully, that's what she knew to do. But I just knew from early on, there's no way I'm going to do this. I'm going to have to figure out how to generate income myself. So that's kind of that seed got sown early on. I was like about 19, 20 when that seed got sown. And so I was always looking for entrepreneurial opportunities. So it first came at 23 and it just got easier.
okay. I mean, for me, I started working when I was 14 years old. I worked in the Catholic Church as a rectory assistant. But, I'll talk about my first job out of college because that was the one that's actually kind of the funniest one. I worked as an assistant for a top life insurance agent for 3 months. And just how Sky was talking about it, I'm not anybody's assistant. I realized that the hard way. Um, I'm very good at motivation stuff, but sitting there organizing, documenting paperwork and data entry, it just wasn't my thing. And so I did it for 3 months. If I look back at that time period of my life, I think the behavior patterns I had were probably of a little bit of a depression. So I didn't like the fact of, me working and just waiting for someone to tell me what to do because I was such a self-starter. And, the other thing was I told myself after I left that job, I was never going to work in life insurance because of the fact that you had to cold call people, you had to go looking for different activities to do through the church and softball and try to connect with people on LinkedIn and do all these different things. And I said, I don't want to solicit to people. And then fast forward, graduated college in 2011. I started working at NILICO in 2015. What separated it from this job from that career path was they give us the union workers, they give us the leads, they give us people to call. So we don't have to do any of those solicitations. And I was able to educate my friends and
Look,
family at my leisure, but not at the company's demand.
look,
So,
that is so
that
funny
was
because
my
now you're
first
coming
job
back
out of
full
college.
circle.
I think that's just a funny story.
Who would have ever known? Now we got it
Sure
on
is.
record. So,
And I put my toe in the life insurance
uh-huh.
industry also before I came to this particular company because I was doing my health and wellness thing, and then I
Yeah.
transitioned over into health insurance. And then I said, you know what? Let me just expand. Let me get my license. And I went and got my life, health, and disability license. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I should look into the life insurance side of this. And once I realized that there was no training, they get you the license. I mean, I took the test and got the licensing, but in terms of how you now take this and grow it out, there was no guide. There's no store that you can go to. There's no school that you go to
Yeah.
show you how to be a productive life insurance agent. And all of the things that they talked about in the different companies just wasn't appealing to me. So I just put it in my back pocket for a number of years until
Right.
I ran into someone who worked for the company. And when they began to explain the kind of support that you get, I had to lean in. I leaned in, I kept his card, and I kept calling him. I kept calling him like,
Nice.
I want to check this out. I want to
And then
check
he
this
was
out.
able to
So
help you out. So now,
that's where we got started.
I want to learn about that process real quick, because I know
Absolutely.
there's going to be a lot of young ladies that hear this. They're going to get inspired by your story, and then they're going to say, you know what? That's it. That's the career I need to be in. That's going to help me change my situation, my family situation, and so forth. So, what steps would you tell to that person to take? Or what steps did you take to kind of get into your career and start your business that you can give as advice to all those people who are going to be inspired by this podcast interview?
I'm so glad you asked that. And I'm going to pass it to Maggie after I just make this comment. Um, we're living in a time financially where it's always been a challenge, trying to make ends meet for us. But right now, everybody is challenged. I know they're talking about us entering a recession. As far as I'm concerned, we've been in a recession for quite some time. And it's only getting worse. If you look at the headlines, there are many companies that are tossing their employees out by the thousands, unapologetically. They're being dumped into the unemployment bins. And God only knows how long you're going to be there and how much support is going to be in place and for how long. Very, very unsettling times that we're living in financially. Whether you're in college right now with aspirations of gaining entry into one of these positions, or whether you are already in a career that you already see the handwriting on the wall, you're just keeping your head low and hoping that you don't get that pink slip. It's a very uncomfortable time. If you've ever considered entrepreneurial work, being able to work for yourself, I think that this industry gives you the kind, and this company in particular gives you the kind of support where you can work for yourself, but have the training that you need to be able to know how to do it well. So you don't have to make the same mistakes that, when you start out as an entrepreneur, you make mistakes just because you don't know. If you're a first generation entrepreneur, it's different if you're second or third generation entrepreneur. So with this industry having been around and stood the test of time, this industry is not going anywhere. This industry is a recession proof industry. So there's that layer of security, but then there's you coming new to this industry. As I mentioned, there's a level of support and training that is unmatched in this industry. So there's no need for, I know sometimes people talk about life insurances and agents um, being unethical. There are people like that who are in the industry, like in any industry. But if you know what you're doing and you have the support that you need, there's no need. There's absolutely no need to be unethical because you know what you're doing. You only become unethical if you really don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the reasons why I felt really compelled to want to do this podcast, because I want to be able to let people know that there is an alternative to having to go to a 9 to 5. If you're driven, if you're passionate about your success and the success of others, then this might be an alternative for you. It's not for everybody. It's absolutely not for everybody, but for those who are willing to bet on themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm always about betting on myself, right? I mean, I know who I am, right? And if you have that level of confidence internally that you know that if you're given like the how to, if you're given the how
Come
to,
on, speak on it
you
now.
can
Go
take
ahead,
this and
take
run
us
with it.
on.
So
Take
Maggie,
us
you want to
home,
give
Maggie.
the
Take us
instructions on
home.
how?
Love it. Love it. 100%. I mean, it's funny because when Sky talks about entering into recession, so, when I was in school, remember I studied economics, they talked about in 2008, 2009, they kept explaining to us, since we don't have, our four, quarters of decreased GDP, we're not technically in a recession. I'm like, I heard that before. History is repeating itself. And you're 100% right. Because what happened after 2008, after they said, we're not technically in a recession yet, we hit it. Right. And it was a very bad
Nobody was
one.
returning calls. Nobody was returning calls.
And it was a really bad one. So that's actually what the economists were saying. I was in school, I was listening to the rhetoric, and I was like, if there's nothing stopping us from going into one, we're going to go into one. So, with that said, as far as the stability, 100%, I mean, the fact even that I get to work from home, I feel like my life is a dream. I could be in a jacuzzi working if I wanted to, depending on what task I was working on. So it gives that level of freedom. And as far as like where to go, we do have webinars. We do have access to a website I could send out to you, Tyrell, or I can even give you our direct email address. And obviously, anybody that is looking or open to bettering themselves, like Skai said, it can't give anybody a job, right? But we could definitely give somebody an interview. Just a fair shot, fair chance of seeing if the opportunity is for them or not. So,
Love it, love it,
that would
love it.
be, I guess, the best answer I have to that question for
So
you, Tyrell.
much value and information that you've given in this short period of time with us. You know, I would love to keep the conversation going, but my podcast is not like a Joe Rogan podcast. We don't go talk for 2 hours. but hopefully we can get you come back on for another segment someday. Before we jump off, tell me, what projects are you currently working on and where can the people find you?
Well, in terms of
um,
social media, I mean, I know we all have our own personal social media, and I do share some of the things that we're involved in. Like Maggie said, that she could be sitting in a kajoozy, a jacuzzi, doing this work. Last year, this time, I was actually sitting in Hawaii working my business. And Maggie knows I could be anywhere because I'm my own business person. I could be anywhere in the world. I was in New Orleans last year, this year. I was in Mexico this year working
that's
my business, right? Because once you get to a place of earnings, right, you can take your show on the road and still do what you do, right? You're still helping people and you're still growing. So that's a big plus. So you can follow me on social media, Instagram. I'm Skai, and that's SKAI underscore unlimited UNLTD. That's Skai SKAI underscore UNLTD. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok under both those handles. And also, you feel free to email me, and that would be at you could do it at Diane Diane Stroud Stroud, the 101 at Gmail. So the Skai Stroud 101 at gmail.com. And we'll be glad to share further details, further information, and let's see if this is a fit.
absolutely.
Maggie.
Thank you. Also, same thing for here. You can find me on Instagram. I'm Ed-Maggie Styles, and it does say I'm fashion and finance at the same time. So that's my Instagram account, and you could find me. My email is EMYRTHIL at Pappas PAPPAS agencies, plural,
I want
AGENCIES
to thank you,
.com.
ladies, so much for coming on and blessing us with knowledge. And if you're out there driving and you didn't get all that, don't worry. I'm going to email them, get all of their links and information, and to put it in the show notes below. Any last words of wisdom for the people before we part off today, ladies?
Well, I want to just say thank you to you for providing this platform for something, because I've watched several of your interviews and podcasts. I love your style. I love your energy. And I love that you're allowing people to have a voice to be able to be heard and just spread the word. And and in terms of just life lessons for myself, um, one of the things that I learned in the wellness arena, people when they get older, and centennials even, because I did a study on centennials. You don't want to live your life with regret. And one of the biggest regrets that people have at the end of their life is not having lived their own vision, living somebody else's vision. Their parent
Mhm.
wanted this for them, or their grandparent wanted that for them. I know mine is not a typical journey, because I've gone here, I've gone there, I've taken highways and byways because something is interesting over there. But that's my journey. That's my truth. That's my journey. And don't let anybody tell you how you need to live your life. Feel free to enjoy this experience called life the way you want to. That doesn't mean don't listen to your elders, your teachers. You want to take in advice. But when it's all said and done, you want to know when you come to the end of the road that you've lived a life that you've
I
chosen for
love that. Live a
yourself.
life well lived.
I would say my advice is
Go ahead, Maggie.
obvious.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in all over you.
Yeah, I would say be So right. I would say be authentic with everything that you do, because I find even in the insurance industry, when you're real, when you're yourself, when you're honest and you're genuine, you get further with people. So there's something that we all know what we need to do spiritually. And if you feel like you're arguing with your spirit, you're probably on the wrong path, like when I was working as an assistant. And so find your truth, find that, and believe in it, because your behaviors are going to be belief driven. So whether you believe you can do something or you believe you can't do something, you're going to be right. So believe in what you actually want your life to be and live that as your reality.
Look, they not just giving y'all financial advice right there.
Amen.
They giving you life advice. They breathing life into you today. Ed-Maggie, Skai, I'm honored. I'm privileged to have this time with you. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch, because I think we're gonna have to do a part 2 or do something else, because this was just absolutely fire. Yeah.
Thank
No
you so
problem.
much for
So,
having
ladies and
us.
gentlemen, make sure y'all connect with
Thank you.
them.
Thank you.
We'll try to get them back here for some more advice, go deeper dive into certain topics that you want to hear about. Just make sure you message me and let me know what it is you want to hear. And that is our episode for today, and we'll catch you on the next time.